So Shabbos Pasha Shlach Chav Chesivim Mevarcham HaChedesh Tmuz Yitzavshin Chav Beis. Vehoyo Baכלכם Melechem Haaretz. When you'll eat from the bread of the land, Tarim Truma Lavaya, you should literally give a raised offering called a heave offering, as in to lift up to the Eibishter. Reishis Arish Seichem, the beginning of your dough. Challah. Rashi explains challah to mean a tort. Teruma, you shall give teruma. So this is the mitzvah of challah that is given to the kohen, right? What does the pasuk say? It'll be when you eat from the land, from the bread of the land. The pasuk says before, this is pasuk, our pasuk is pasuk tes. Yutes Chof. The previous pasuk Yutches says, "Bevoyachem el haaretz asher ani meviasim shama." It'll be when you come to the land that I bring you. That's when the mitzvah of challah begins. The pasuk is clear that the obligation of challah did not begin in the midbar. El rak bevoyim la'aretz, coming into Eretz Yisrael. So why does he repeat? Why does he repeat again in the very next pasuk? When he says Vehoyo Baכלכם Melechem Haaretz, and it'll be when you eat from the lechem of the haaretz, when it's already stated in the pasuk previously, the very previous pasuk. He says in the pasuk, the beginning, you should give a truma to Hashem, and then the pasuk concludes, Challah Tarimo Truma. Shakosef Koifel Tarimu Truma. The pasuk repeats twice this phrase: "You shall give Truma based on him." So the Sifri is in Medrash it says Medrash Halachadik in Medrash Sifri that the opening words Tarimu Truma beTruma Gdoila Kosem Medaber. I'm not talking about Challah, but Truma that's given also to the Kohen, the unspecified amount. Sifri continues, maybe Taka means challah. So the Sifri says it can't, because at the end of the pasuk where he specifies challah terim truma, hari challah amura. So challah is mentioned. How will I explain the opening words? So therefore, the Sifri says, in answering this question, that the first Tarim Trum is referring to general Trum of all of the grain, and the second one to Challah specifically. Even though from the repetition of the Pasuk Chazal Darshans we just quoted, that it goes also on Trum Gdoila. I'm not sure of the also. Right? That the Pasuk maybe is referring also to Trum Gdoila. The words Tarima Truma, according to the Sifri, don't also go on Truma Gdoila, it goes only in Truma Gdoila. Something means the pasuk l'chura. Then we come back if you put the Shamikra, yeah. But the put the Shamikra call a pasuk al Truma Challah Bilvad. But the put the Shamikra, the theme, the subject matter is Challah alone. Why? Shari mitzvahs Truma Gdoila ein mekem b'parsha zu. This is not the parsha which even goes into detail about Truma Gdoila. But in the next parsha, Yachadim Kol Sham Matniskuna, with all the other Matniskuna in Parshas Koirach, that the pasuk delineates, outlines. Therefore, the question stands in Pshutasha Mikra, why it mentions Trim Betruma twice with respect to Challah. What does the pasuk say? When you'll eat the bread, you should give truma. What? No. The chiyuv of mitzvah of challah is such that it precedes and must be taken before you eat. So how does the pasuk say? You'll eat bread in terim truma. It's before you eat the bread, not after you eat the bread. Fiksha ramez beparshas ekev. Like the Ramez, interesting. This question is asked by the Ramez. It's a pirish on the Zoyar. So there he asked the question. It's like Pasha the Shayim, Shadisham Mikra. Okay, those are the questions. So what, I'm going to summarize the questions. The first question was what? Anybody? No? Very first one. That it's what? Yeah. Why is he repeat coming into land and stated already in the pasuk prior? Next question. It says twice. Now the Sifri Taka says that the first reference is to what? To Truma Gedolah, but that's not Pshut Shemikra. And finally, why is it not Pshut Shemikra? Because Truma is discussed in the next parsha, Parshas Kairach, not here. There it's talked about explicitly. And finally, the question, the third shaila. He mentions taking challah after eating the bread. When you take challah before you eat the bread. Okay. So we all understood by first prefacing the inyan of lechem, bread. There are two levels. Earthly and heavenly bread. Are not just gashmis and ruchnias, but also yeshnam b'kololo seidrei ishtalshalos. Now it's not just manna and regular bread, but in ishtalshalos itself, as we will see. And also in Aveda, there's the Aveda of lechem and oretz and lechem and hashemayim. In brackets, yecher ikar kol inyonim. The ikar is the Aveda component. K'mayim razal, ani nivreisi l'shamash eskoni. I was created to serve. It's interesting why he quotes it. Usually the quote is Ani lo nivreisi ela l'shamash eskoni. The two girses, that's the one that's usually brought. Here he brings that girse. Don't know if it's a diuk or not. A component. Binyan is the lechem in the oretz, lechem in hashemayim. So what is it in beruchnis inyonim? First of all, in ishtalshalos, earthly bread and heavenly bread, who inyan toyu v'tikut. So let's just refresh our memories. The inyan of toyu is what? The beginning of ishtalshalos begins with, well, even before that, the very beginning, even pre-ishtalshalos is what? Is the emergence of the revelation of the Ein Sof. And then begins the tzimtzum. So the first encounter of the Koyach HaBli, which is the Ein Sof, and the Koyach HaGvul is a shattering encounter. Kemuvan that the process of containing in Kalim Ein HaBli is shattering, and that's the natural result. But the kavon and the end is that the Rabbi should be revealed in the Koyach HaGvul, in the Kalim, and the Kalim should not be shattered. That's the whole kavon. It is the Teba Kalim Detika. But the beginning is Toyu. An example brought in Chassidus. Remember, what's the classic example brought in Chassidus for Shviras HaKalim, for Toyu? The person is introduced to a novel idea that's totally beyond him. So till he gets a grasp on it, if he ever does, he's actually confused. He gets shards. He hears a word. There are oisias, but it's not bisyashvus. And he doesn't grasp it, doesn't put it all together, and it causes a shattering. Or another moshel is a person hears news, something that he was completely unprepared for, something extraordinary. A brother that he thought had perished in the Holocaust, and all of a sudden he will meet him. Shviras HaKalim. The Kalim can't take such a gilu. And other examples as well. At any rate, so what is what? Lechem bin oretz. So earthly bread, if you think the other way, you think earthly bread is lower. No. Lechem in the oretz, that is, what is that in Baruchni? That's toya which precedes tikkun. The lechem min hashamayim, and lechem min hashamayim, but heavenly bread is surely higher than earthly bread. So he says, when we show the tikun, lechem min hashamayim comes from the shoydish of tikun, the source of tikkun. That's the diak here. Shalamayim b'shoydish hatoy, which is higher than the source of toyu. To explain. Are clear so far? Just the geography, what's what. So lechem min ha'aretz is toyu. Lechem min hashamayim is from the shoydish of tikkun, which is higher than the shoydish of toyu. In other words, associated with tikkun, but in tikkun, gufa, we mean the shoydish of tikkun. What does all this mean? Let's begin. So why you have it's on your phone, the machine is not working. So the whole creation of Olam to begin with is that it's listed to be dismantled. So the shattering of the vessel, which is the kavana, it wasn't, oh, something went wrong, oops. It all shattered. But this is the kavana toyu, which is, what is toyu? Oiris marubim bekelim ba'otim, great light and little keli, which means that ikad there is the keich hablikvul, and the keich havul only begins to emerge in a very hesitating kind of way, as it were. So this, the chatchila, is in order to have the shvira, in order there should be the tikkun. Haino, meaning to say, in terms of the intent and in the source, higher than the shvida and tikkun itself. Olam tikkun precedes, which means that the maila in the Eir Ein Sof Mamish, the Keich HaGvul and Keich HaBligvul are harmonious. It's all him. It's only as they emerge with their own identity, as it were, that they become incompatible. The mitzad atzmos, mitzad the mo'er, it's all one. So, and that's the kavana. The kavana is to reveal the matter that's all one. That Havaya Holy Kim, that where God is concealed and God's revealed, it's all him. The Keich HaGvul is the equal expression of him, the Keich HaBligvul. So that's what he means here, that L'mayla Kodam Elam HaTikun, the integration of Gvul and Bligvul precedes the process where the Keich HaBligvul then emerges overtly, overt Bligvul, Eir Ein Sof, then comes the Tzimtzum, like a separation of the Bligvul and Gvul. Separation is in our perception. In our perception, they're incompatible. Bligvul, infinite and finite, are not compatible. So in Hishtalshalos, that's what happens. You have the Eir Ein Sof, which precludes Gvul. And then comes the Tzimtzum, the Keich HaGvul, and the shattering. But before all of that is the inyan of Tikkun, it's all integrated in harmony, it's all a likus. Yeah. Let's see in the words of the Maimonides, he doesn't express it the way I just did. It's a whole long beard here. And let's see. I just give you some context, background, to try and place everything. Well, the explanation of the matter is as follows.
Why are you saying, before you go further, why are you implying that at the source? I know we know that at the source, everything is together. Isn't the Rebbe trying to be to emphasize that tikkun is higher?
Yeah, why is tikkun higher? Because tikkun is the harmony.
Right, I understand, but why are you? You just explained that they're all together. Of course, they're all. I mean,
that's what it means. That in
tikkun is higher.
In Ishtalshlos, tikkun is lower than toyu. He's saying,
correct, but at its source, it's higher.
That's what I just explained. What does the source mean? That there, the gvul and bligvul are harmonious. It's all him. That's what it means.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Order. Okay.
Bira Inyan explanation is as follows. In Belechem in the Oretz, So in Lechem, that's what she said is what? Toihu, yeshna inyan avodas berurim. So what's the whole avodah? The sparks fell, there's the shattering, they fell into Gashmis, it's Lechem in the Oretz, and we have to elevate it. So we have to be mevada the berurim, avodas berurim, levada sanitzutzish, the toihu, shenofle bedvarim agashmi. We have to elevate in the tzutzis of Torah that fell in Dvarim Gashmi. Let me just refresh our memories, friends. This is a very elemental idea that was first introduced by the Arizal. This whole idea of I wouldn't say that, no, but the Arizal, it's a cornerstone of the Arizal's teachings. The idea of the whole shlichus and the shama comes lamato is to elevate in the tzutzik dusha. So let me remind you, it's hinted in the pasuk. Which pasuk is it hinted to in Bereshis? We gave out the sheets. We looked at it. You'll have it somewhere, probably in your files, in your chassidus files. Ruach elikim merachefes al pnei hamoyim. No? So it says that the word merachefes, reish pei ches meis. 288 sparks, dead, meaning fell into Elam Hazeh, which is Baruchli is dead because it feels completely separate from the source. Where does this number 288 come from? It's not a number. It's not a number. It's 4 times Shem Ab. What's 72 times 4? 288. 4 times Shem Ab. What's Shem Ab? Ayin Beis. Just a classic Kabbalah geography. What do you mean by Shem Ab? Everybody remembers the different Miloim. How do you spell Yud Ke Vav Ke? The Miloi yields different gematrias. Yud is always spelled the same. Yud, Vav, Dalet. But Hey and Vav could be spelled Hey Aleph. Vav can be spelled Vav Aleph, Vav Yud, Vav. So he has therefore the different net results: Shem Ab, Shem Ban, Shem Ma, Shem Sag. These are all different Miloim. So the highest Miloi is with a Yud. Ayin Beis 72 is if you spell Hey Yud, you spell Vav Yud Vav. So if you add all that up, that's 72. So that's the highest. The highest, that's with, if the Milui is Yud, that means Shem Havaya dominated by Chachma, by the highest level. The different Miluyim are different spheres of Ishtalshalis. You follow? The Milui of Hey is Zod, the Milui of Hey is Malchus. So the Milui of Yud is Chachma, because Yud is Chachma. It's the highest expression of Shem Havaya, Shem Ayin Beis, Shem Ab. So 4 times. Why 4 times? By 4 times also because in the Yud Ke Vav Ke, the Ardoilimus, Kaponim, whatever the explanation. So let's just refresh ourselves of the basic, Kabbalistic language and so on. So Baruch Lakim Rachefes Apnei Hamoyim. So 288 sparks fell into where? Into Elam Hazeh, and that's the whole kavon of the Bria, is we should elevate the sparks. Then what happened? The Yidden in Mitzrayim, they took up with them a great multitude. Explains that Yizal, that through the tremendous avodah in Mitzrayim, Kura Barzo, like a furnace which purifies the metal and the iron is produced, all the dross is burnt away. Mitzrayim is called the Kura Barzo, the iron furnace. So the Yidden elevated Rav. How many sparks did they elevate? Rav? Reish Beis? 202. No, so subtract 202 from 288. 86. So it's left since Yitzias Mitzrayim 86, which begin Gematria what? Hateva and Shem Elikim. That's left to elevate. It's only 86 sparks since Yitzias Mitzrayim. But as explained in Chassidus, these 86 sparks themselves subdivided into myriads and myriads of small nitzutzik dusha. And as time goes on, which is actually somewhat of the subject here, as time goes on, the smaller and smaller sparks have to be elevated. We have the mop-up operation now for Bias Mashiach, the final Tzutzik Dusha in Teva. All right, that's Poshet Kabbalah 101. Yeah? Everybody's with me? Okay, let's continue. So what's Lechem in the Oretz? So Lechem in the Oretz says that the Avoidi b'mevared in Tzutzik Dusha, the Tfel, the Dvarim Gashmi. So what are we by elevating them? We're elevating them to this, to connect to this source where it all happened, the shattering in Olam HaToyu. I'm not going to go into whole arichas. We once spoke more about to understand what does it mean. What does it mean that the Nitzutzik Dusha fell and concealed in Dvarim Gashmim? Okay, we'll leave that maybe in the course of this we'll revisit. More has bought it. But at any rate, now through this, through what? Through elevating the spark that fell into Dvarim Gashmim to this source of Olam HaToyu, this causes a tremendous Eloi. Why? Toyu precedes Tikkun. We'll not speak the Shadish of Tikkun now. But Tikkun itself, Toyo precedes Tikkun. It's not only that it comes before Siva a cause and a result. But Toyo, as we just pointed out before, is higher in level. The Riboy is the Toyo him nailing, but it's the Tikkun, the revelation, and Olam HaToyu is higher than Olam HaTikkun. Olam HaTzilus, Tikkun is Atzilus. Toyo is Bligvul, relatively speaking, Kiyadua, as is known from the h'tשכ, in Toyo, the great lights invent small. The Keich is very faint and very subtle. Kelim ba'atim. U'b'tikun is the opposite. The Eiris ma'atim. The light is compromised. The Gilo is Gvul. Ba'kelim b'rubim. And the Keli are dominate. Keich HaGvul dominates as a spheres, order, structure. So Toyo is far greater than Tikkun. Toyo is Ribi Oir. So now what are we doing through Avedis Habirudim? And through engaging the world and elevating the sparks that are in the Dvarim Gashmim. And these sparks come from away from Olam HaToyu. Mailim Misanitutzis, the Shorshem B'Toyu. We elevate and reconnect the Nitutzik Dusha to their source. In so doing, we're elevating the Davar Gashmi that is host to that source. The source is very lofty and extremely lofty, as we just described. The Oidzoi, and furthermore, not only is the aliyah of the Nitzutz Kedusha to its source, the Toihu, through the Birur, what do we achieve now? We draw down these great revelations, Bekelim Rechavim the Tikkun, in the broad kelim of Tikkun. How do we make the kelim broad? Since we engage the davar gashmi in a way of a mitzvah, or b'chol d'rachecha da'ehu. So when we bring Torah to bear, in other words, you bring Torah to h'tשכ of the previous Maamar. When you bring Torah and mitzvahs to bear, and you engage the world in a Torah and mitzvah way, you make the kelim rechavim broad, that they should be able to receive the what? The Eiris, the Torah. Or another way of phrasing that is like Torah is Shalom Ba'olam. Torah was given only to make peace in the world. Simple pshat is peace in the world. That's a tremendous achievement. But the ultimate peace is this peace of the Eiris, the Torah, and with Kelim, the Tikkun, with Gvul and Bligvul. Hashem gives strength. What's the strength? Hashem yivarech esame b'shalom. The strength, Einay Zela Torah. Torah, which is rooted in the previous Maimon, the Pnimius HaKavana. So when a Yid engages in Torah, and the Pnimius HaKavana is Dirib B'tachtonim, which is what? It is the Torah, but Kelim the Tikkun. So that's what he means by the broad Kelim of Tikkun. What is the broad Kelim of Tikkun? The Kailin of the Dover Gashmi has now become an instrument for Torah and mitzvahs to serve the Eibishter. It now is broad. It didn't become physically bigger, but it now is broad and expresses, what am I? I'm here to serve him. It's all him. So it's a Kaili there for his Bligvul revelation. It's all one. It's all seamless. Yeah?
So each level, Rabbi, is greater and greater to ensure there's greater intimacy with the Eibishter towards Devekut.
Right. How can we have this integration? Because as we said before, that the Shodesh of Tikkun is higher than Torah. What's the Shodesh of Tikkun? That is in the Ein Sof Nifnei HaTzimtzum, in the Etzem Ha'oir. What is the Etzem Ha'oir? In the Etzem Ha'oir there, the Keich HaGvul, the Keich HaBligvul is all one. That's a Lechem in Hashamayim. Shalamayim, we call it Shana Birurim, which is higher than the whole process of Birurim. The Lechem in Hashamayim, which expresses the Shleimus of Elikus, of Gvul and Bligvul being one. That's what he brings to bear here, Lamat. Clear? All right, let's continue. Now comes the heart of the Maimon.
Here's the question. Here's a quick question. Here is a question. Is he trying to imply that mitzad seder ishtalshalos toyu is higher, but mitzad the kavone, the avodah of tikkun is even though it seems like it's a lower level, but the kavone is here. Dir b'tachtonim.
Yeah. In other words, yeah. You say like this: tikkun, it's classic tikkun. And then this tikkun, the achrei avodah. This tikkun is the way it is, mitzad ishtalshalus. That's the matzilus. And that's lower than Toyu, because Toyu is Eiris Merubim and tikkun atzilus is Eiris Mo'otim. What happened in Eilam Atzilus? In Eilam Atzilus, Gvul got the upper hand on Bli Gvul and eclipsed it and compromised it through the process of the Tzimtzum. And to descent. It's a descent from the tremendous brilliance and revelation of Eilam Toyu. So there, in the Shtalshos, tikkun is lower. But mitzad the Kavana, tikkun is higher. But not the way it is in Atzilus. That's not the Kavana. The Kavana is not to make Atzilus. The Kavana is, because Atzilus has compromised Toyu. It's no longer Eiris Merubim. Now we want the Eiris Merubim in Kalim. And which Kalim Nilam has that? How does that happen? That's through Torah mitzvah. So the whole Avodah Hashem is the Ameyitain that we are mamshich is the Torah and Kalim the Tikkun. That's what it means by the Tikkun, the Kalim Rechavim. That's the whole Avodah. That's the mandate that Rabbi gave us, right? Chavches Nissen. Okay, so now begins. The proti is a very beautiful beer in how the birur happens. How the refinement of the world, the objective of the end of which is the fusion, the oneness, the expression of the oneness of Hashem that seamlessly permeates and is expressed in both Bli Gvul and Gvul simultaneously. The Dover Gashmi expresses Elikus. So now in more detail, to explain this in greater detail. We want to start a few words. And there's two ways that the avodas haberurim happens. Birur melamayla lamata, from above to below, or birur melamata lamayla, and from below to above. Birur melamayla lamata. So the birur from above to below, this happens, it's granted from above, which happens even before the time where a person contributes his avodah. והוא עניין הבירו שעדי בחינה שמה דתיקון המבאר. דתיקון, sorry. והוא עניין הבירו שעדי בחינה שמה דתיקון המבאר. Let's just read these next few words. שעדי זה נעשה הבירו בכלולוס אלה מסביע. Okay, so what is Shema? Shema is Yud-Kei Vav-Kei spelled how? What's the Milui? The Milui is Aleph. And the Aleph goes on Zah. So Shema is Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, which dominates Yud-Kei Vav-Kei is Zah. So what is Zah? Zah are the 6 midas of Atzilus. That's Mevarer, that's invested through Malchus, and is Mevarer Bia. Actually, Abiyasha. There's a Nasa Bira Baklolos Ilamas Atzilus Bri Yitzirasi. Okay, so we made that statement. Beis Hashem tomorrow. Oh, next time we learn is Monday. As I told you, tomorrow and Friday, I'm on an early flight, so it's not Shaykhis. So Beis Hashem will continue the Birur of Shem Ma on Monday.